So we'll start with our usual prayer for teacher and student. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavaditam Astu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May that one protect us both. May that one nourish us both, teacher and student. May we work together with great energy. May our study be illumined. May we not unnecessarily cavil with each other. Peace, peace, peace beyond all. So this is our usual spiritual seekers question and answer session. And so, as usual, I will mute the microphone so you can formulate any question that you feel might be useful to you.
Swamiji, I have a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. And I suppose it is to do with our daily activity. That perhaps you are preoccupied with something that impacts your daily activity because you haven't addressed it properly. It may be a concern, a worry. It carries into your actions during the day, unbeknownst to you. So you perhaps react in a different way than you might normally, and you don't even realize you're doing that because you haven't resolved the original issue. I don't know if I'm making sense here. So, and it's not that you don't meditate on a daily basis, you do, but this issue, call it a worry, call it a concern, call it a fear, this almost sits in the subconscious, and you don't think it's impacting you at all, but you realize at some point on that journey it is. And how do you then, what's the best process to deal with that?
All right, I'm going to use a different example. Supposing you're caught in the rain and you take shelter, under a cover, let us say a shop awning. The rain is still there, but at least you're taking refuge from something. And the word refuge I'm highlighting. So you see, if there's something like that, then we have to bring it out in our sandhya or our spiritual practice. So when we say meditation, we really are also including prayer and japa. In prayer and japa, we have the honesty to bring the issue out. If you recognize it and you say, well, it's in the unconscious, it comes out, but you've recognized it as an issue anyway, then you have to bring it out and present it. So the advantage of the devotional way is that if we form a relationship with our nearest and dearest, then we can surely openly discuss that with the expectation of taking refuge and the satisfaction that we are taking refuge, which also means protection. Every statue of every deity, including in Buddhism, has the Abhaya symbol, fear not, don't fear anything. And so every issue could come back to a sense of fear. Fear of death is the mother of all fears. So when we resolve issues back, we probably find it may have something to do with that or non-existence or something at its most acute. And naturally, if it's playing on our mind, it'll come out in our behavior. So now you see, there's a kind of circularity going on because we have to deal with behavioral issues during our waking life. At the same time, we have to, without that, meditation doesn't go as intensely as it could. But without the intensity in the meditation, the issue doesn't also go away. So what to do? We combine the two things, and in meditation, we bring the issue out, put it in its correct perspective, surrender it to our most beloved deity, and ask that this may be taken care of. And within that will be maybe some practical things that come to mind about how to deal with it. Now, I don't know if you want to give a specific example so that we can be more specific, or you want to leave it at that. That's up to you.
No, I'm okay. I'm okay to go deeper here. I feel safe. So it has to do at its origin with the fear of death or somebody dying. Um, when least expected. And finding it very difficult to bring that in front of deity and understand that process. And I'd like you to delve a little bit deeper in that. It's not that it's, how do you really bring that forward? I mean, saying it quietly to Sri Ramakrishna, to Holy Mother Vivekananda, to you, Swami, in your meditation is one thing, but that doesn't seem, and I think some methodology might help here, because that doesn't seem to work, or it hasn't worked, should I say. It hasn't worked. And I think perhaps it's not what I'm doing, it's how I'm doing it is the challenge.
All right, so let me put it in this way. There are some people, I'm going to speak in a little bit of a general term here, some people who will find it difficult to face death because it's the ultimate pain. And so we take every measure to avoid that pain. But we have to go much deeper than that to really evaluate, and all spiritual practice and all spiritual things really dealing with this question of death lead us from death to immortality, lead us from unreal to the real, and so on. So we have to start with a conviction or a realism, put it that way, about death itself. One question I often ask people will be, how long do you expect to live? I think we've been through that exercise maybe at some point. Most people say, how will I know? Not possible to know. And then my reply is, well, you can have an educated guess based on where you are, what is the average lifespan. And then for men, it's different from women in most countries. And then if you say, well, I do all the right things, I eat the right foods, and I do the right exercise and all the rest of it, so we'll add some years on, let's say another 5, 10 years. All right. But the point is, there's an inevitability about it. And you know the story from the Mahabharata, how Yajnavalkya, how all the brothers go to get water, and Yajnavalkya is, sorry, not Yajnavalkya, all the brothers in the Mahabharata, they go to get the water, and all the brothers fail to answer a question posed by a ghost there. And Yudhishthira goes last, and he's a little wiser. He understands the situation properly. And one of the most profound questions that are being asked is, what is the most paradoxical thing amongst human beings? Something along those lines. He says, the fact that despite the fact that we know death is there, it happens to people, we know it's an inevitable thing, somehow we're deluded into thinking it will never happen to us. I will expand that. Never happening to us means never happening to those near us also. So we are living life on the basis of a strategy which says no one's going to die here. It only happens in the movies. So there has to be an element of realism, which itself can be painful, but all pain of that nature is based on some attachment. Now, you cannot just dismiss it and say, well, give up your attachment. It's not as easy as that. You know? What it means is you have to cultivate an attachment somewhere else. So there are elements of human sympathy that have to be employed on the basis that somebody else is also suffering. So there has to be understanding, compassion. This is the whole nature of death and dying. It's the whole nature of bereavement counseling. It's the whole nature of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross extensive work on death and dying, that any person who is likely to die or who we fear might die, they themselves will be more fearful in it probably than you, of it than you, even though they may not say it. Normally speaking, that would be true. And then if the person is close, there's an experience you have to go through together. And the tendency to avoid the issue should be itself avoided. So we have to look at the issue fairly and squarely on the basis that it will happen. Before I went to India, recently in November, a very dear friend of mine, who you might know, John Dunford. So he was suffering from lung cancer. Then he had to go into the hospice. Hospice means we won't treat you any longer. You're now just waiting. But you see, because of his profound philosophy, practical philosophy, he had no fear about it. He asked the doctors, so what exactly am I going to die from? Are you going to give me an injection, or how's it going to happen? Because it's a non-rehearsed event, seemingly. Of course, we rehearse it for every night for it. We vacate our passport personality and go into a blank and come back, reincarnate in the morning. Of course, I said, no, I'll tell you how it'll happen. You'll die from the hospital food. Of course, he laughed. And you see, the dying person will lose everything. They lose their bank account, they lose their friends, they lose their house, they're losing everything. But conquering the fear of death in yourself and in another is a very primary thing. Now, that doesn't really help at this point on how we overcome this fear. So we have to be quite sure what it means. There is no such thing as death. I can't find any example of it anywhere. There is such a thing as transformation, but not death. Even material things, they just transform. You light wood in a fire, and the wood disappears, but there's still smoke there and ash. It's just transforming that. You put food in the mouth and it gets transformed into the body. So, and in meditation, we have to dwell more upon the reality of this and develop a sense of fearlessness, also compassion and support for those who we fear might go prematurely, let's say. Now, is it easy? Of course, it's not easy, but still, life is there to teach us the tough lessons, and without being hard-hearted, still be realists and manage the thing. The life can end at any moment for any one of us, and no one really knows when. Now, the important thing, therefore, is that this moment is still alive, and the next moment is still alive, and the next moment might not be. So every moment is the last moment. You've heard me say this before. And so we have to treat every moment, really, as a precious gift, a blank check, never been used before, that we have the opportunity to fill to our heart's content. And we have to make sure that we fill it not for ourselves, but we fill it with something that is profound and valuable, that has a sense of, within that moment, truth and beauty and goodness and love and harmony, all those values, and build that up within us. So the question that you ask is a tough one, of course, difficult one, because there's an emotional component with it. And so, like all emotional things, we have to take that emotion and try and channel it in a different way. We do that by deepening our relationship with our chosen ideal. Offering this, giving, making sure we take refuge in that, making sure that in our imagination, the person near us is also put into that refuge point. And doing that in such a way that we are sure that everything is looked after and looked after well. Now, of course, a part of this is some speculation, because when something goes wrong, we have a tendency to fear the worst. And so there has to be a balance between over optimism on the one side and realism on the other. And to say, well, perhaps we can see that maybe every life has a purpose, an individual purpose, and a value. And anything that we ask of our God will come to pass. So that faith has to increase. And it's not a faith that is a wish. It's not a faith that is has desperation in it. It is a prayer that has a level of absolute confidence in it. But still, even if a person is on a critical list, and even if they survive for the next 10 years or 20 years, they will die, as will your body, as will mine, as with everyone. But it's only a form. It's only a pillowcase. Our attachment to the pillowcase is the problem. The counter is attachment to the Supreme, attachment to the God, and the God within that person also. So it's a very profound question. And I'm going to read something, because you see there's a useful book, and the apostles of Ramakrishna are given the opportunity to take a topic. It's just systematized in that way. I'm going to read from Swami Purnananda. He says, this life may end at any moment. He says, no one knows when. Equip yourself for the journey with spiritual treasures. To arrive empty-handed at an unknown place involves much suffering and sorrow. Birth is inevitably followed by death. At death, you go to an unknown place. So you must prepare yourself for the journey. Always be ready for a great call. That's for yourself. You have to assist the other person in the same way. Birth and death are just a matter of course. Nobody can stop them, says Swami Shivananda. God alone is immutable and immortal, pure, enlightened, and free by nature. And in answer to the question, does everyone have to be in a disembodied state? after death? Not necessarily. Why should devotees of the Lord who have genuine devotion have to be in the disembodied state? They become one with God and obtain freedom. And the real joy or peace is very rare in this world, and this round of birth and death that is ours, no one can check. Man has no hand in it. God alone is responsible for the creation, maintenance, and dissolution of this world. And it is by His will that all beings are born into it. It's a very important statement because we think that there's no control over it. But there is a control. And the control really is to have the faith that all will be well, regardless. When somebody asks me, so-and-so died, where do you think they are? I say, I have no idea, but I know they're in a better place. Now, that doesn't help in terms of the attachment side of it. And so we have to revalue in order to get a different perspective, think of things in a different way. And it's emotion that gets in the way. Well, we can use that. With heartfelt sorrow, we present all our fears and we present them honestly, trustingly in front of our chosen ideal. And we do it in the sense of humility, like a child presenting this. And then the last thing, I leave it with you, with the confidence that it will be looked after. In summary, that's called faith. The absolute certainty that ask and you will receive, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be answered, open to you. I don't know how helpful that is for you.
Extremely, yeah.
Okay. Then you see, you also have, we all have a number of God-given tools. A guru is a tool, mantra is a tool, worship is a tool, and our capacity to reason is a tool. So we have to gather all the tools in our toolbox in acute circumstances and apply them all if necessary, without a sense of desperation, but with a sense of confidence that we are equipped to handle anything and everything. Nature is kind of like a schoolyard, which sets some problems before us with the knowledge that we have the capacity to surmount the so-called obstacles, to get around them. We won't complain about it. If there are thorns on your road, put tough shoes on. If there are potholes in the road, then you use a four-wheel drive. I often say, you see, when I used to go from Zimbabwe to Malawi, and most of the road is potholes. Then the question is, what is an animal in the middle of the road with horns? What do you see as the horns? Well, it's a giraffe in a pothole. That's how deep the potholes are. You make a road around it. You can't manage with an ordinary car. And nobody here has an ordinary car. All our earth cars, what we call a body, are extraordinary. One teardrop is effective as a germ killer diluted in a 20-liter bucket of water. Even if something gets past that, you have cilia, a kind of conveyor belt system that coughs up any foreign material. And if it gets beyond that, you have hydrochloric acid sitting in the stomach. Then what? Why should we be ill with all these defense mechanisms? Even if it gets past there and gets into the bloodstream, antibodies are there, surround it and deal with it. So all of these things are available to us. We have excellent equipment. Let's take the mind We have the equipment to discover the depths of space. We have the equipment and the potential to discover our own divine nature. And so what I was saying earlier on, even before this broadcast, is our ultimate tool is this steady, poised area that our scriptures call Atman. An immortal self that you can go to. And in that state, there is only, well, the only description we had, I gave earlier, is Satchit Ananda. So we know it's existing, it never goes. We know it is pure consciousness, therefore it's not a nothing. And we also know it is the highest state of bliss. So we can drink that nectar. So everything has a purpose and in its own time and its own place. And prayer, nothing, not magic, not spells, not anything else, not medical intervention or anything else, but prayer is nothing more powerful, because prayer is thought, and there's nothing more powerful than thought. Thought moves faster than a sunbeam, faster than a laser, faster than the speed of light. So put your thoughts in, not as a wish-fulfilling thing, but as an act of faith. Somebody comes to me with an issue or a problem or a desire. Let's say you want to pass an exam and get a degree. My answer is already accomplished. I put it in a different way. I would say, so invite me to your graduation. Now they're thinking they're already graduated, already accomplished. So that's what is necessary. On the one side, there has to be the acceptance. Birth, life, and death is a normality. On the other side, we can say that if it's all up to the divine will, the divine will's timing, we're simply in the hands of that and dependent entirely on divine grace. When you sit for meditation, understand that thought is a flow of divine grace. What we do with it, that's something else. That if you have a stiffness in your legs, the awareness of it is divine grace. That when you eat your food and don't even worry about it, the digestion of it is because of divine grace. There's nothing you do about it. You don't eat your food and put a spoon down, give it a stir. You don't digest your food. Some loving being does it for you. Yeah? Good. Okay, good, right. Nice to see you all again. Bye. Yeah. All right. Good. Good. Thank you. See you. Yes. Okay. Good. So, are there any other questions?
Yes, Swamiji. Hello. Good evening. Oh, sorry. Good evening, Swami. It's Hamsini. I would like to know how, with the spiritual development, let's say something like that. Sometimes it's quite difficult to manage the ordinary life, and we're not happy to see the friends we see before, but it's not the same, and it starts to have a shift in the relation. And how could we manage this thing?
So we have to understand we only have one central purpose in life, and that is a vision of God, put it very simply like that. And that means, therefore, that anything that impedes this journey should be avoided. And that can be difficult sometimes, but we have to make sure that we're on track. Now, you see where that's possible, we have to avoid anything that is distracting us, but sometimes that's not always practically possible. For example, you go to work, you'll find colleagues there who are not on the same wavelength. All right. And so you can't just say, well, I'm not coming to work because, hey, I'm a spiritual person, you're not. First of all, that's arrogance, and that's not spiritual at all. So we have to have a conviction that every person, every place, every event is nothing more than spirit. And we have to, and if there's a particular problematic situation, as I said in the last answer, you bring that into your meditation. For example, supposing there's a difficult person at your workplace, then and that's happening day after day, and it's disturbing your mental balance, let's say, and that's just a turn of phrase, because nobody can upset your mental balance. You yourself are doing it. Your reaction is doing it. So you have to do something about your reaction. Then what you do is you introduce that into your meditation with creative imagination, mentally put them on a divine throne with artistic colors and what have you. Mentally put a garland of flowers around their neck, shower them with perfumes, do a namaste there, and recognize that actually they're God dressed up. You just didn't notice it. As soon as that happens, a transformation happens on the other side. You don't do it to get that. You do it because you want to recognize the reality of the spirit there, which you didn't recognize before. And what's the test of that lack of recognition? You may have reacted negatively. That means your spiritual level, which you thought, I must preserve that and nobody is on that same wavelength, is coming down to their level. So if you're reacting, you're actually now acknowledging their materialism, that their attitude is problematic to you, and that spiritual life for you is not practical because it doesn't give you an answer to a problem. And if there's no answer to a problem in spiritual life, you cannot call it spiritual life. It has to be involved in every aspect of your life, social, domestic, every aspect. So spirituality is a practical sport, but we don't take it as a sport. That's our problem. So you see, there are philosophers who emphasize the nitya, the eternal, and then there are philosophers who will emphasize the lila, and we are saying both are true. They're two sides of the same coin. There's the eternal on the one side, and there's the play on the other side. If we are involved in the play, we should play the game well. Learn the art of playing the game of guiding thought and play it well. And that requires practice, and practice means repetition. And keep repeating it until we've got it. Like playing a game of tennis. I use the example again, you see. Don't ask for a game of doubles if you're playing with God. That's a lazy game. Ask for the toughest ball, please. Please hit it in this corner. Do it again and again and again until I learn to return it nicely. Then we'll try the other corner. So that's a proper game. And then somebody who is involved in that game of life will have the boldness and the strength and the spirit of adventure and sportsmanship to say at the end of the day, in a complaining way, Lord, You never gave me a curveball today. Can you please give me one tomorrow? Complete fearlessness. Nothing to fear. Nothing to fear because only God is there. That conviction has to be there. As soon as we forget that, we get a painful difficulty. We get a problem. So spiritual life is not sitting down meditating. Spiritual life is in the working, waking world, dealing with real situations, as well as sitting down. The only difference is sitting down in prayer, japa, meditation, you're seeing God in yourself. Then when you open the eyes, you're in external meditation is the art of seeing God inside the other. So we have to patiently learn that art. And so instead of avoiding a difficulty or problem, we bring it in. And those people or circumstances or events that will deviate us from our spiritual purpose, those that we can avoid, we avoid. If I'm an alcoholic, I'll avoid going into a pub. No point in going there and testing things out. The easiest just to avoid it. And all of us have an addiction, you see. So when we do the Enneagram, we know, and we put it in that language. See? So all the avoidances are actually addictions. They're protection mechanisms which are not working. Yeah. So we have to make something that it works and works much better. That requires a shift in our valuation. It's not a workplace, it's a divine temple. It's not my body, it's God's housing. It's not my mind, it's His sitting room. It's not an awkward colleague. It's a role being played on the stage of life that requires different kinds of characters. How can there be a Ramayana if there's no Ravana? You haven't got a story anymore. And you see, we think that Ravana gets his freedom because, you see, he hates Rama. That means he's thinking of Rama all the time. So he's doing better than everybody else. Obsessed with thinking of Rama. Most people don't think of God to that degree. Never mind that he hates him and is angry with him and all the rest of it and all his flaws and so on and so forth. He's concentrating on Rama. So it's his privilege to be slaughtered by him. So you see, there's only one formula that we're using in the previous answer and in this one. You see that divinity in everything, in every person, every place, every event, every scene, and learn the art of doing that. That's a starting point. Second thing is we see it as a flow of divine grace flowing through everyone, all arms, all hands, all eyes, all heads, everything, all limbs. Then the next stage is as. It's only spirit. As soon as you interpret your identity with the human body, then you'll get pain. As soon as you identify with spirit, the pain goes. Is it easy? No, I'm not saying it's easy. But learning and playing a game is never easy. Should it be enjoyable? Absolutely. Why not? Play the game nicely. Play it with the Lord. Singles, not doubles. This is the formula for fearlessness. If there's only one thing if there's only one spirit, there's no fear, because fear requires two or more things. In oneness, you can't have any fear. So the Bhagavatam, Krishna is telling, I'm paraphrasing, it's not a cruel joke against you and me. This is a Leela, this is a game on myself. I'm the only entity. There's a drama going on, a sport going on, let's say a theatrical performance. I'm the director, I'm the producer, I'm the actor, I'm the stage, I'm the lighting, I'm everything. So we tend to split things up, but what we see in front is only fragmented God. Get used to it. All right. Any other question? Don't ask me about the population of Nigeria. I have no idea. Go on, you have a question. What? Oh, rabbit in the headlights. Okay, all right, never mind. Anybody have any other question? No. See, we have to take every opportunity to clean the mind and to make sure that it is always joyful. And whatever negative comes in unnecessarily, uninvited, we have to have a technique of dealing with it. And then every one which we can control, then we can exert our control. So, for example, if somebody wants to pour negativity on me, I would have to stop them and say, my mind is not a dumping ground. It's not a dustbin where you can deposit all your rubbish. If you have rubbish, please put in your own backyard. Don't put it on me. I have the individual authority to do that. I have the discernment to do that, to apply that if I find it necessary. So we have to use our discernment in this, about who to associate with, what to engage in, what not to engage in. It's called viveka. And then the unexpected thing that comes to us, we have to build up a firm basis, like a fortress. Durga is a fortress with all the weapons available to us. Philosophy, scripture, teachers, mantras, whatever. Worship, with this huge arsenal with us. You see the Devi Mahatmyam they're studying here. So all the deities give all the weapons to the fortress Mother Durga. So it's not that we don't have weapons. All these weapons we have. At Durga Puja, I ask people, how many arms does Durga have? What's your answer?
12.
24. I don't know. Too many to come.
Approximately 16 billion and more. Because there are 8 billion people on the planet. Most of them have arms.
Yeah.
So we are well equipped. We have to tap into it and use it. Well, if there are no further questions, we'll leave it there. So we'll finish off because I don't think we have any commercials. So nothing to advertise. Oh, except buy my books. Yeah, that much you can do. 3 volumes are now out. Reflections. If you do happen to, then write a review that boosts the profile of it. All right, so we leave it there. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Good, thanks.
Thank you, Swamiji. Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you, Swamiji.
Swamiji.
Okay.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Om